Breaking news tonight, the deadly attacks on American troops in the Middle East as the war between the U.S. and Iran escalates. The U.S. military saying 2 service members were killed and another is missing after Iranian attacks in Jordan. 4 others hurt. The deaths marking the first American casualties from Iranian attacks since the early days of the war. And with both sides escalating strikes, could the conflict spiral out of control? We're live in the Middle East. Dangerous storms marching across the east, triggering flash floods. Look at these people trapped on a box truck. Water pouring down into New York City subway stations. And now, more than 100 million people bracing for tornadoes and hail, too. And all of it still not enough to clear out that toxic wildfire smoke in some areas. We've got the latest forecast. Texas declaring a major disaster after more catastrophic floods. Nearly 1 trillion gallons of rainwater falling in just days. Hundreds of rescues, neighborhoods destroyed. And tonight, the cleanup, our teams in the flood zone. Hostage rescue deep inside the Northern California wilderness.
We got an armed standoff going on with hostages.
What we know about the U.S. Forest Service workers rescued after being kidnapped, zip-tied, and held at gunpoint. What we're learning about a high-profile political prisoner just freed from Cuba, who's now here in the U.S. The wreckage just discovered from that deadly boat accident near Alcatraz. Countdown to the World Cup final. What to expect ahead of tomorrow's big game, plus the battle for bronze. World record broken. The runner who just logged the best mile time ever. And there's good news tonight about the emotional reunion between this man and the heroes who saved his life.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a major update out of the Middle East. The U.S. launching new attacks, retaliating for the deaths of 2 American service members killed in attacks by Iran, with a 3rd still missing. The U.S. military revealing tonight those service members were killed in action, defending against Iranian ballistic missile and drone attacks in Jordan. Here you're looking at new video from Iranian state media, which says it shows drones heading to American bases in both Jordan and Kuwait. It comes after a violent week in the region, with the U.S. and Iran trading escalating attacks for days now. And we're just learning the U.S. is launching a new round of attacks tonight. Also tonight, the State Department now warning Americans across the world to exercise increased caution. Our team is covering it all, and Keir Simmons starts us off tonight from Saudi Arabia.
After a week of escalating conflict, tonight 2 U.S. service members are dead, killed defending against an Iranian missile and drone attack in Jordan. U.S. Central Command says another service member is missing in action. The deaths, the first during direct Iranian fire since the early days of this war. This video showing the moments missiles hit Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan overnight, though it's unclear if it's the same strike that killed those 2 service members. U.S. Central Command says it's withholding their identities until 24 hours after their families have been notified. 4 others were medically evacuated but have since been discharged, CENTCOM says. Iran had claimed it destroyed at least 2 American fighter jets and 3 aircraft at a base in Jordan, with Iran's new supreme leader in a statement today vowing a forceful response to increasing American attacks. Iran has accused the U.S. of killing civilians and striking bridges like this one, close to a port on the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran says desalination plants have been hit that provide drinking water to thousands. CENTCOM says it's targeting Iran's military capability. And Iran has itself hit desalination plants in Kuwait. Here, large plumes of smoke are seen rising from an oil facility there. Kuwait has been hit hard. This satellite image showing the scope of the fire from the sky. Neighbouring countries condemning those Iranian attacks as flagrant aggression.
Keir Simmons joins me now from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. And Keir, Jordan has been repeatedly targeted.
That's right, Jose. Those U.S. forces in Jordan have been under almost constant fire. Jordan has said in the past 2 days it has intercepted 13 missiles and 4 drones. Now, this new wave of strikes from CENTCOM, it says, will punish Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps for those deadly strikes on those U.S. service members. Jose?
Keir Simmons in Saudi Arabia, thank you. Let's go to Julie Sirkin, who's traveling with the president, joins us now from New Jersey. Julie, has the White House indicated how the president plans to respond to these deadly attacks from Iran?
Jose, the U.S. launching new strikes to punish Iran tonight, according to Central Command. The question remains, though, if the U.S. will further escalate after the deaths of those 2 service members. Lawmakers are sending condolences to their families. As for the White House, Jose, they are referring us back to that CENTCOM statement Keir referenced. We also haven't heard from President Trump, who has been unusually quiet on social media today. But remember, Jose, he told our Kristen Welker last month that he would take it very seriously if Iran killed more Americans. 16 service members have now died in this conflict, and days ago the president warned U.S. forces would hit all of Iran's civilian infrastructure, from power plants to bridges. We've now seen 8 straight nights of U.S. strikes against Iran, Jose, and there's real concern back here at home about this war widening since peace talks collapsed. Jose?
Julie Sirkin in Bridgewater, New Jersey, thank you. And now to the dangerous storms putting more than 100 million people at risk across the Northeast. Those storms already triggering flash floods, with that wildfire smoke still lingering in multiple major cities. Valerie Castro reports.
Tonight, more than 100 million people on alert for severe weather as the Northeast braces for tornadoes, hail, and flash flooding. Multiple rounds of dangerous storms moving through the New York City area. Streets turning to rivers in Queens. 2 men trapped on top of this box truck stranded by the floodwaters. First responders arriving on scene. The pair carefully moving along a narrow ledge. A firefighter extending their hand to help them make the final steps to safety. Visitors to Midtown Manhattan battling rain and wind. This midday rain shower caught a lot of people off guard. The skies were already hazy from all of that Canadian wildfire smoke, so the rain sent a lot of people running for cover.
The rain came out of nowhere, and then from there, so right now, we're stuck.
The water cascading down into subway stations. The weather impacting air travel, too. Ground stops issued at New York's LaGuardia and Boston's Logan Airport.
Flights are being canceled out the wazoo.
This all comes as the Canadian wildfire smoke continued to smother major American cities. Washington, D.C. blanketed with a thick layer of the smog. The smoky air settling in over the Philadelphia skyline and dimming the sunrise over lower Manhattan. This morning, a thick haze of unhealthy air enveloping New York, New Jersey Stadium, the site of tomorrow's World Cup final between Spain and Argentina. The air quality improving after the storms rolled through. And tonight, officials in Canada responding to President Trump posting, "We are holding Canada responsible for that smoke."
You don't get on and start threatening and criticizing, because guess what? One day it's going to be your turn. And we're going to be down there without hesitation to support our neighbors.
Valerie Castro joins us now from Brooklyn. Valerie, we see the Brooklyn Bridge there behind you. What conditions are you experiencing?
Jose, right now there is a break in the storms here in New York City, though the sky is still a little hazy from all of that smoke. The threat for severe weather is not over yet, and the metro area could see wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour before the day is over. Jose?
Valerie Castro, thank you. I want to bring in meteorologist Matt Brickman from our NBC New York station. And Matt, how much worse could this get?
Jose, this is definitely going to get worse before it gets better. We're not done. This cold front coming through tonight will bring more heavy rain and more severe weather across most of the Northeast. 100 million Americans under a severe weather threat tonight, including that enhanced risk from New York to Philadelphia and into D.C., out west through Pittsburgh as well. And that includes the potential for tornadoes tonight in an area of the country that doesn't typically see all that many. I think the flood risk is even greater. It covers a larger portion of the country with more rainfall rates between 2 to 3 inches an hour. Now, once this is done tomorrow morning, the storms clear out. The smoke should clear out as well ahead of the World Cup final on Sunday, Jose.
Matt Brickman, thank you very much. We're also tracking the major disaster declared in Texas tonight after nearly 1 trillion gallons of rain has fallen in parts of the state. And tonight, the cleanup. Priscilla Thompson reports.
Tonight, families across the Texas Hill Country cleaning up after that catastrophic flooding swept through the region. Hundreds of high water rescues this week. Nearly 1 trillion gallons of water estimated to have fallen in the hardest hit counties. The state's governor already signing a major disaster declaration and asking for federal help. Today, we saw some of the many families now in need firsthand. And this line stretches more than a mile. It's full of hundreds of families hoping to get flood supplies. In Kerr County, dozens of volunteers helping the Carpenter family clean up. Inside their home of more than 60 years, everything now stripped down to the studs. The water's powerful enough to pick up their 1,200-pound piano. And when you all found it, it was
way down there.
Wow. Carrying it across the room. 85-year-old Robbie Carpenter tells me that with no flood insurance, it will cost hundreds of thousands to rebuild. Still tonight, his son David says they're grateful.
It's just stuff. And we have people. That's the difference between this year and last year. We have a sense of joy because we're not recovering people. But the property loss is significant.
The death toll stands at least 2. Governor Greg Abbott crediting lessons learned from the 2025 floods that claimed more than 100 lives.
Everybody in Texas has been far more prepared to deal with what has happened this year. There again is one reason why lives have been saved.
And Jose, there are still huge chunks of pavement ripped up by floodwaters all along this roadway, but already crews are out laying fresh asphalt as they work to reopen the roads here. And tragically tonight, we are learning of 5 people killed in Wayne County, Utah. The sheriff there saying that they are all believed to be family members, and the suspected cause is flooding. Jose?
Priscilla Thompson in Kerr County, Texas. Thank you. And now to the World Cup and the countdown to tomorrow's high-stakes finals. Jesse Kirsch has it all.
America's summer of soccer all coming down to one final thrilling weekend. First up, England toppling France near Miami today. The 3 Lions finishing the tournament in 3rd place. Now anticipation building for tomorrow's blockbuster final in New Jersey.
It's going to be a hard final for sure.
Argentina aiming for back-to-back World Cup titles in what could be 39-year-old superstar Lionel Messi's last ever World Cup match. To pull it off, they'll need to beat Spain and 19-year-old phenom Lamine Yamal. For the team's 2 biggest stars, Sunday will be a remarkable reunion. Look at this photo from almost 20 years ago. That's a young Lionel Messi posing with a baby boy for a charity calendar photo shoot. The baby? Lamine Yamal.
Es una locura.
Messi calling it crazy how that duo will now square off for the title. The winning team takes home $50 million in prize money, with $33 million going to the runners-up. Tomorrow's final also includes a mega halftime show featuring Madonna, Shakira, Justin Bieber, and BTS. And if that didn't already feel like the Super Bowl, for the first time ever, FIFA will give the winners championship rings. All of it surrounded by heavy security, with President Donald Trump expected to attend. And if Lionel Messi does clinch tomorrow, Argentina will become only the 3rd nation to ever win back-to-back men's World Cup titles, something we have not seen in over 60 years. Jose?
Jesse Kirsch in Miami, thank you. And for all the action, you can watch tomorrow's final en Español on Telemundo and Peacock. Still ahead tonight, the dramatic rescue mission to save U.S. Forest Service workers who were kidnapped. Back now with a disturbing hostage case in Northern California. 2 U.S. Forest Service workers were taken hostage, zip-tied, and held at gunpoint while the suspects were in a standoff with authorities for hours. Morgan Chesky reports.
What's the occasion?
We got an armed standoff going on with hostages.
Oh, my God.
Tense moments caught on camera as a frightening hostage crisis played out in real time. Authorities say 2 Forest Service workers were taken at gunpoint by a father and son in a remote wooded area of Northern California near Mount Shasta. The suspects identified as 49-year-old Joseph Henriksen and his 23-year-old son, Phoenix, who investigators say zip-tied the workers before forcing them into a trailer. Federal prosecutors say that's when the elder Henriksen used one of the victim's own cell phones to call law enforcement, threatening to open fire on anyone who approached, saying he wanted to speak with the FBI. That threat launching a massive law enforcement response. When did you begin to get involved in this incident?
I was driving along Forest Service 26, and let's say two people in camo gear with guns started hailing me down.
Hank Magnuski's drive to his cabin cut short when officers asked for a ride to the remote scene. His dash cam capturing local, state, and federal agents converging. The FBI even flying in a tactical team cross-country from Virginia.
I would have never, ever guessed something like that would happen around here.
The FBI says the suspects were found with an AR-15 and knives and claimed to have grenades. The standoff lasting nearly 15 hours, finally ending around 1:50 Friday morning when the suspects released both workers before surrendering soon after. And tonight, those suspects remain in federal custody, facing kidnapping charges that carry a max penalty of life in prison. Jose?
Morgan Chesky, thank you. We're back in a moment with a world record that was just broken and the new one set for the best mile time ever. We're back now with one of Cuba's most high-profile political prisoners who is free tonight and in the United States. Luis Manuel Otero Alcántara traveled to South Florida after receiving a humanitarian visa from the U.S. The artist was one of the leaders of a movement against Cuba's regime. He was detained during the historic July 11th, 2021 protests against that regime. Human rights organizations say there are still hundreds of political prisoners behind bars. Also tonight, the FDA says Taylor Farms, the supplier linked to that Cyclospora parasite outbreak, is pulling certain brands of iceberg lettuce in 27 states, including at Walmart stores, and in many of those states, specifically including some bags of Walmart's market-side bagged iceberg salad and shredded iceberg salads. The Cyclospora outbreak has been linked to severe stomach illnesses in 34 states across the country. In the West, crews say they have found the wreckage of a boat that sunk in the San Francisco Bay earlier this week. 2 people were killed, 2 more still missing after the vessel capsized. Officials say the boat sank with 20 people on board after it was hit by a wave. Police say they used sonar to find the sunken boat and now trying to assess whether it's safe or even possible to recover the wreckage. And runner Josh Kerr just broke the world record for running 1 mile in front of a massive crowd in London. The old record was set 27 years ago, back when the 28-year-old Kerr was just 1 year old. His magic time today, 3 minutes, 42.66 seconds, beating the record by nearly half a second. Why don't we come back? There's good news tonight about the emotional moment when this man met the nurses who saved his life. There's good news tonight. You know, so often the good news doesn't get as much attention as the bad. So every Saturday we highlight the many people who spread joy and love. And these are just some of those stories this week.
3, 2, 1.
Talk about a surprise. That's 9-year-old Kennedy Marples, a monster truck enthusiast in Utah, getting a costume designed just for her.
Wow, you look so cool.
That costume, modeled after the Sparkle Smash monster truck, was created in a partnership between Monster Jam and the nonprofit Magic Wheelchair.
Sparkle Smash!
The gift sparking joy for Kennedy and her family.
Oh my God!
This is a moment decades in the making. That's Amy Davis at her childhood home in Ripley, Michigan.
Right there.
Uncovering treasure after 36 years.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Before her parents sold that home, Amy set out on a mission to find this time capsule. She buried it with her best friend Nicole when they were just 8 years old.
I'm literally gonna cry.
Inside, a marble, a seashell, a ring, and a penny. All mementos from a lifelong friendship that has also withstood the test of time. And for Brad Keith, an emotional reunion with the nurses who saved his life.
That's Martina Dykstra and her daughter Leah Schaefer, who found Brad at just the right time when he collapsed on a dock before a fishing expedition.
You are a miracle.
Somebody was watching.
They were sitting on a bench when Leah's husband saw Brad experiencing a medical emergency.
My husband was like, you guys need to get over there.
Mother and daughter jumped into action, giving Brad CPR until paramedics took him to the hospital.
To tell you the truth, I was a little upset I missed the fishing tournament.
What did you?
When Brad learned what happened, he knew he had to thank them in person.
I am so grateful for you.
What did they do, Brad?
They unselfishly did their job to somebody they didn't even know. And I can never be grateful enough.
You're welcome, Brad. You're welcome. It was our privilege.
For Leah and Martina, that experience was profoundly meaningful too.
I believe in God's hands. It's like amazing to me that I would be a part of a miracle. And I believe that I witnessed a miracle for Brad.
Your training kicked in, but then you felt that there was a bigger hand there.
My mom does labor and delivery nursing, and I do nursing for adults. She's involved with bringing life into the world. We're not able to give life, and it's not our right to take life, but to have the opportunity to believe. And if this isn't his time, we can't say everything's been tried yet. We're looking at this guy, and we have training that can make a difference.
What a difference indeed. That's NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. The great Hallie Jackson will be here tomorrow night. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and good night.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.